It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Wednesday, August 13th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Thunderstorms possible this afternoon. The high's going to be 90. Tonight and overnight, showers, low 76. And then Thursday, well, some clouds in the morning, rain in the afternoon, high 88. If you are walking out the door with us right now. 72 and clear in New Square up in Rockland County. 71 and clear in Hopewell over in New Jersey. And it's 74 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Can Mayor Adams sink any lower in the polls? Cops stop a shootout in Brooklyn. A Manhattan mugger makes off with a very pricey watch. President Trump threatens to send the National Guard to the Big Apple. And Billy Joel closes up shop in Oyster Bay. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Investigation underway in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, Brooklyn, after a shooting that's left one man injured. So the bullets flew on Ocean Avenue. This was about 7:30 last night. You had two guys who were just shooting at each other. Officers happened to be right around the corner. They jumped out of a patrol car after hearing these gunshots, and they fired at one of the gunmen, and they hit him. Well, neighbors heard the commotion.
I was working inside the counter, and I hear the shot, too many shots. I see people running, so I go outside, lock the door. I don't want people come. We get scared like it's crazy because too many shots. That's it.
How many shots?
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Officers fired shots at one of these two individuals, the one that was closest to them. They hit him. They then performed CPR on the gunman before he was taken to Kings County Hospital, where we're now told he's in stable condition. The other gunman who was firing at him, well, he's still on the loose this morning. But what we do know about the injured gunman is he's a 22-year-old, a two-time convicted felon who was out on parole. Here's how police describe it.
Because of that concurrent sentence, he was released from prison just 2 months ago on June 10th, 2025. That's less than 2 months ago. This subject is out of jail. This is a person who has repeatedly shrugged his shoulders at consequences and at our criminal justice system for these violent crimes that he committed.
Yeah, he was arrested in 2021 at the age of 18 for shooting someone almost at the exact same site where this shooting took place last night. Of course, as more details come in on this, we'll pass this on to you. Did you see this new poll from Siena College? Shows Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani holding on to what is a commanding lead in the race for mayor this fall. The latest survey of voters shows the Democratic nominee 44%, followed by Governor Andrew Cuomo at 25%, Republican Curtis Sliwa 12%, and then Mayor Adams in last place at just 7%. Now, as with the other polls, similar results, the mayor just shrugging this off.
What are you going to do next month when Andrew Cuomo asks you to drop out?
I have to get out there and sell, this is what I'm going to do for you in the next 4 years. But the people of the city is going to make that determination. They're going to hear me, and they're going to say, do we want to continue after we heard you, Eric? And then I make a decision, and it's all cool.
Here was Curtis Sliwa talking about the poll yesterday.
If Eric Adams had been a halfway decent mayor, do you think you would even know who Zohran Mamdani was?
Okay, so here's what we know about this poll. 317 registered city voters surveyed with a margin of error of almost 7%, and it included a disclaimer that said some results should be taken as anecdotal. Here's more from Mayor Adams.
This is going to be the most unique mayoral race in the history of this city. And a lot of first-time voters are going to come out that's going to change this dynamic.
Yeah, well, it's definitely unique. Here's political consultant Hank Scheinkoff talking about this latest Siena poll.
It's an okay day for Andrew Cuomo in those numbers, and it's not a great day for Mamdani. Why?
because the Democrat candidate should be doing much, much better on any kind of poll.
Now, yesterday, Cuomo continued to hammer away at Mamdani's rent-stabilized apartment. Mamdani has lived in this rent-stabilized apartment back from the days when he was making $50,000 a year. Now, as an assemblyman, he makes $140,000 a year. That apartment is in Astoria. And Cuomo's calling it Rentgate. Mamdani is accusing the former governor of ignoring the real issue in the race.
Andrew Cuomo has spent more time talking about my apartment than asking why so many New Yorkers are being forced out of theirs.
Cuomo wants Mamdani to release his apartment lease, while Mamdani wants Cuomo to release a client list from when he was a consultant in a private practice. All making this race awfully interesting. And what'll make it even greater is Mayor Adams will be stopping by at 8:45 this morning to talk with my good friend Sidney Ferris Rosenberg, right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning, live in studio with Mayor Adams coming up at 8:45 this morning. We have more on a deadly accident in Queens yesterday that involved a coffee cart and pedestrians.
3 people are dead after a car lost control and slammed into a coffee truck in Astoria Tuesday morning. The owner of the truck heard screeching of tires as he was just closing up, but managed to move out of the way at the last second. It happened just before 9 a.m. on 19th Avenue and 42nd Street. 2 male pedestrians who were 40 and 71 years old and who were just standing by the truck were struck and killed, as was the 84-year-old driver. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
5:06 over to Paterson, New Jersey, where they have found the source of that leak in the water main break, but a boil water advisory remains in effect. And there was thousands of people, by the way, who had no water between Friday and Monday. Now the water is there, but not everybody is getting like full pressure, and you still have to boil it. So this was a 140-year-old main that ruptured on Friday, forcing these residents in Paterson to either be without or to boil their water for days.
At this point, it seems that only apartment buildings and buildings that are on top of high hills are not receiving water yet.
Yes, so apparently we keep hearing from different people. Some say they have water, others say not full pressure yet, so it's not 100% clear who has what and who doesn't. But that's the mayor of Prospect Park, which is a nearby town. So either way, if you have water in these towns, and this affects about 188,000 customers in northern New Jersey, that boil water advisory is still in effect for today. There is a new warning about rip currents following 2 separate drownings this week here in the city down in the Jersey Shore. This swimmer says he appreciates the advisory.
You have to know what your capabilities are, whether you can swim or not, and how far you can take it.
So now one of these drownings on Monday night involved a woman in her 70s being pulled from the water off Manhattan Beach in Brooklyn. That was about 6:30 after lifeguards had gone home for the evening. And then we found out about the other person who was also drowned in the surf down the Jersey Shore. It was a 31-year-old man who was with his kids. He died after getting caught in a rip current at Seaside Heights Beach after lifeguards were gone for the day. The victim and 4 others, including his 16-year-old son, were pulled from the water. This was about 7 o'clock, 2 hours after lifeguards went off duty. Now, first responders with the local fire department scuba team deployed these jet skis to try to rescue the swimmers. They were taken to Community Medical Center in Toms River, and that's where the father passed away. And we're finding out he is from Trenton, New Jersey, and had just gone to the beach for the day. And there were a lot of people on the sand who watched this, and, you know, it must have been just horrific for them, too.
It was pretty intense.
Everyone was shocked and scared. Emergency personnel all over. They were clearing the streets and the boardwalk.
It was difficult to watch. It was heartbreaking. I felt for the mother and the extended family and everybody. You know, it was not easy.
Lifeguards usually leave around 5 o'clock and were not on duty during the time of this rescue. Beachgoers say the water was incredibly rough on Monday. It has been over the last couple days, even for expert swimmers. And Seaside Heights officials warning people, We get this all the time, but of course, if you get caught in the middle of a rip current, it can be incredibly frightening. But this is how they say you're supposed to respond. This is somebody local in Seaside Heights.
People, when they're getting sucked out, they want to fight it, to go straight. You got to go to the sides, or don't even fight it. Let it take you out. Let it take you out. You won't get tired. You won't inhale water. So they're getting so hyperventilated, they start sucking into seawater. Let it take you out. It'll just bring you around. And we'll get to you eventually. It doesn't matter. If you go out there, nothing's going to happen to you.
Okay, so the key is, of course, to swim when there's lifeguards around. Then you have to have right of mind if you get caught in one of those rip currents to just go with it and sort of wave your hands to lifeguards who will get to you incredibly fast. And they've made a slew of saves. I mean, I can name countless saves during the course of this summer. 5:11. National Weather Service says Tropical Storm Erin expected to strengthen as it's now heading westward toward the northeast Caribbean. Here's the forecaster, says it's too early to tell if the storm will impact the East Coast.
Right now for South Florida, there is no threat at this time. Just something we need to continue to monitor. And a reminder that we are in August, so we are beginning to enter the most active part of hurricane season. So definitely a good reminder for all of us to be prepared.
So he says even though some so-called spaghetti models, they show the storm turning to the north near Bermuda, the National Hurricane Center's forecast cone, he says, is more accurate.
So it's really all about the timing and the interplay between the subtropical or Bermuda high and these troughs that are moving west to east across North America, exactly where they line up and when and how strong. So when you see all the so-called spaghetti lines and all that, from the different forecast models out there, the Hurricane Center is using all of that information and plus, and most importantly, their expertise in order to come up with that 5-day forecast. So that's really what we should be focusing on the most.
Okay, we'll continue to watch Tropical Storm Erin. Harvey Weinstein set to be sentenced this morning in his sex crimes retrial here in the city.
A former Hollywood producer was found guilty of engaging in a criminal sex act with one woman while being acquitted on another count involving a different woman. Weinstein was found guilty in 2020, but the verdict was thrown out because the judge didn't handle the witness testimony properly. Weinstein is also expected to serve a 16-year sentence in Los Angeles on similar charges. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
5:12. We're starting to learn just a little more anyway about that explosion at a steel factory near Pittsburgh that killed 2 people. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro holding a press conference yesterday with the CEO of U.S. Steel. All right. One person who had been
This was a human tragedy that we lost 2 lives here yesterday at this plant, that there are others who remain hospitalized.
At least 10 people injured when the explosion happened. This was just before 11 a.m. local time on Monday.
We owe them an answer for what happened. We owe them the answers to their questions.
Yes, so far they don't really have a sense of exactly what took place. 5:13, the man accused of killing 3 people at an Austin, Texas Target store on Monday's been charged with capital murder now, making him eligible for the death penalty. The sergeant there says this guy may have either been on drugs or it was a mental health issue.
He said that he was Jesus, and there was really no reason whatsoever given. It was a completely random choosing.
I mean, it's just a horrible story. The shooter first attacked a Target employee who was collecting shopping carts in the parking lot. He then ran up to a Toyota 4Runner where he shot a man and his 4-year-old granddaughter. The sheriff here says the suspect claimed to be Jesus and said the victims were chosen at total random.
He could have been under the influence of narcotics. It might not necessarily be all attributed to mental illness, so we're still investigating all of that.
Yeah, in fact, when they found this 32-year-old later, he was found naked clutching a Bible. They tased him and then took him into custody. 5:14, prosecutors say the gunman in last week's deadly shooting at the CDC headquarters in Atlanta died by suicide. In an update yesterday, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation provided details about evidence found at the shooter's home.
Search warrant executed at the residence of the shooter revealed written documentation that expressed the shooter's discontent with the COVID-19 vaccinations.
30-year-old Patrick Joseph White opened fire at the CDC on Friday. He killed a police officer. White fired almost 200 rounds of ammunition. 5 guns and over 500 shell casings were recovered from the scene.
Over 500 shell casings have been recovered from the crime scene area. A total of 5 firearms, along with other evidence, has been recovered from the scene, and will be submitted for further forensic testing.
Now, apparently they had been warned about Patrick Joseph White.
The shooter had recently verbalized thoughts of suicide, which even led to law enforcement being contacted several weeks prior to the incident.
Yeah, all right. In a moment, we're going to go down to Washington, where the National Guard is spreading out across the city, and we'll ask and find out if they may be coming to New York City soon. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Good morning to you, Noam Laden. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Aaron Judge hit his first homer in nearly 3 weeks. Giancarlo Stanton had his first 4-hit game in almost 2 years, and the Yankees routed the Minnesota Twins 9-1. Carlos Rodon allowed 1 hit in 7 innings. The leadoff single to Austin Martin and cruised after a 31-pitch first. He became the first Yankee to complete 7 innings since the left-hander pitched 8 against the Cubs on July 11th. Stanton went 4 for 5 for his first 4-hit game since August of 2023 against Washington. He doubled in his first at-bat, homered in the 5th, and singled in his final 2 at-bats before getting lifted for a pinch runner following a 2-run single. Judge homered for the first time since July 23rd when he had to drive off Minnesota rookie starter Travis Adams. Anthony Volpe hit a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the 2nd as the Yankees beat the Twins for the 9th straight time. Last night was the 2nd time this season that Stanton and Judge connected in the same game, and 54th time overall, including the playoffs. The Yanks won their 3rd series since the All-Star break and won the first 2 games of the series for the first time since sweeping Seattle July 8th to the 10th. Up next for the Yanks, now a game and a half back of the Red Sox for 2nd place in the division and a game up on Cleveland for the 3rd and final AL wildcard spot. Cam Schlittler will get the start in tonight's finale of this 3-game series against Minnesota, with New York vying for a series sweep. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. tonight from Yankee Stadium in Queens. Pete Alonso broke the Mets' franchise home run record, going deep twice and knocking in 3 runs as New York beat the Atlanta Braves 13-5. Alonso's first homer, a 2-run shot off Spencer Strider in the 3rd inning, was his 253rd. He moved past Darryl Strawberry, who had held the team mark since 1988. Following the homer, the Mets displayed a graphic on the scoreboard with the number 253, alongside pictures of Alonso and polar bears in honor of the Slugger's nickname. Alonso homered again off Austin Cox in the 6th for his franchise the record 25th career 2-homer game, 3 more than Strawberry. Brandon Nimmo hit a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the 4th for the Mets, who snapped a 7-game skid, which is their 2nd win in 13 games. Francisco Alvarez also homered twice, and Brett Beatty also went deep as New York moved within 5 games of NL East leading Philadelphia. The Mets hit all 6 of their homers with 2 outs, tying the mark for a single game in the expansion era. Gregory Soto got 4 outs in relief for the win, and Justin Hagenman worked 4 hitless innings for his first save. Up next for the Mets, now 2 games up on Cincinnati for the 3rd and final NL wildcard spot. David Peterson will get the start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against Atlanta. First pitch is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. from Citi Field. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
5:19. Noam Laden back doing the news hour. The White House says officers surged across D.C. on Monday, making nearly 24 arrests already. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says this is just the start.
Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety, and endangers law-abiding Americans.
Those arrests come after President Trump announced D.C.'s police are being placed under federal control. He also activated hundreds of National Guard troops to help patrol D.C. streets.
As part of the president's massive law enforcement surge, last night, approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. These arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine.
Mayor of Washington, D.C. says her administration is working hand-in-hand with President Trump as he implements his crackdown on crime plan.
The executive order is pretty clear, and so is the law. The executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services. If there's National Guard here, that they're being well used, and all in an effort to drive down crime.
The emergency authority that the president exercised under the D.C. Home Rule Act will expire in 30 days unless Congress approves an extension. And with the National Guard activated in D.C., President Trump has suggested using troops in other cities like New York, Oakland and Baltimore.
There will be political unrest, and then we'll be expecting a lot of rallies and protests happening.
That's somebody pushing back against that idea in Oakland, California, where he says the National Guard would not be welcomed.
New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone.
Crime is really down. The bipping, you don't see the bipping, the Cadillac converters, the stolen cars, that's all down. But we do have to do what? Get a handle of the gun violence.
That's a lawmaker in Oakland. Some people would welcome the National Guard.
The local entity works with state laws, local municipal codes, and they operate off of community standards. The federal government does not.
So no final decision's been made about sending troops to Oakland or here to New York. And in the next half hour, we'll hear about the mayor and how he's responding to that idea. 5:22, the Pentagon plans to set up a 600-person National Guard quick reaction force.
According to reports from the Washington Post, a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force will make hundreds of Guard members outfitted with weapons and riot gear deployable in as little as 1 hour. The force would be called to U.S. cities to quell protests or other unrest. I'm Brian Shook.
5:22, let's go down to Texas, where the state house has once again failed to reach a quorum amid that ongoing feud over redistricting. Speaker Dustin Burrow says that without a group of striking Democrats who've left the state, they don't have the votes to press forward with a special session.
We cannot take up the critical flood response legislation scheduled for our floor today.
Lawmakers have been tasked with tapping the state's rainy day fund to help that section of Texas Hill Country that was hit so hard recover from last month's deadly flooding. That's when a special session ends. It's supposed to end in a matter of days.
To help families and communities who've lost their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods, and in some cases, their loved ones.
Now, there's all these threats against the Democrats who've left town. Republicans say if Democrats do not return, Governor Greg Abbott will just call another special session. The Texas Department of Public Safety is on the lookout for these runaway Democrats who skipped town. Here's Representative Gene Wu, who's among the dozens who fled the Lone Star State earlier this month.
We're committed more so now than ever to see this through and to make sure that we do what we need to do for the people of Texas and the people of the United States of America.
He was almost saying, come and find me if you can.
The words of encouragement from across the nation, from just everyday people, have helped us so much and have been such a blessing. It's keeping us going.
Now, what some lawmakers have said is not only has the redistricting idea been delayed, but important legislation like helping those people in Texas Hill Country from the flood that happened there, those bills are being delayed as well. 5:24. There have been more of these raucous town halls across the country as lawmakers return home to meet sometimes with angry constituents. The latest was California Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who was booed and really cursed at on stage as he returned to Chico, California.
My question probably should be, why are you part of this movement toward fascism?
Multiple people speaking out about cuts to federal programs like food stamps, Medicaid. Some in the crowd called for his impeachment.
Why aren't you here to apologize to the farmers of the North State because of your support for the Trump tariffs?
No fascism in America! You need to be impeached!
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy theme there in Chico, California. President Trump may soon get the interest rate cut he's been asking for from the Fed. That's because July's inflation's report came in better than expected. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt celebrating the news.
Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable.
Yeah, so many economists say the report should be clear evidence that the president's tariffs are not leading to a spike in inflation and that it's now safe to cut rates, possibly as soon as September.
Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office.
Meanwhile, the president extending a tariff truce with China. Correspondent Matt Bodner reports that Trump has signed an executive order keeping tariffs at current levels until November 10th.
This has been an ongoing story since Trump took office earlier this year. Since then, we've seen U.S. tariffs on China escalate step by step from 10% to 34%, then 84%, and finally 125%, before ultimately being rolled back to 30%.
China's base tariff on American goods, that'll hold at 10%. The White House says the postponement will allow for ongoing negotiations to resolve trade disputes and strengthen, hopefully, they say, economic ties.
The latest announcement extending the trade truce came just hours before both sides were set to again massively hike tariffs against each other. China, as part of this back and forth, has set tariffs on U.S. goods at 10% for the time being.
526. President Trump, Russian President Putin will meet later this week in Alaska. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announcing more about what's going to take place in Alaska.
On Friday morning, President Trump will travel across the country to Anchorage, Alaska, for a bilateral meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The two set to discuss an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump announced on Monday that Ukrainian President Zelensky will not take part, but he says he'll call Zelensky and other European leaders after this face-to-face is over.
The brutal war between Russia and Ukraine broke out under Joe Biden's incompetent leadership. But President Trump is determined to try and end this war and stop the killing. As the president has said over and over again, his strong preference will always be for peace and partnership, whenever those outcomes can possibly be achieved.
And Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he was on with Sid and Friends in the morning yesterday talking about this meeting that'll take place Friday between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska.
Well, I think it's a feel-out meeting, to be honest. I think here's the way I would describe it. The president talked to Putin on the phone 4 times, okay? And, nothing's come of it, and or at least we haven't gotten to where we want to be. And so the president feels like, look, I got to look at this guy across the table. I need to see him face to face. I need to hear him one-on-one. I need to make an assessment by looking at him. And that's what the president wants to do. So honestly, I think we're going to know very early in that meeting, whether this thing has any chance of success or not.
And if you missed any of that interview with Sid and Marco Rubio, head on over to WABCRadio.com.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, August 13th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Thunderstorms likely this afternoon. The high going to be 90. Tonight and overnight showers, low 76. And then Thursday, clouds in the morning, rain in the afternoon, high 88. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 72 clear in New Square up in Rockland County. 71 and clear in Hopewell over in New Jersey. And it's 74 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We're kicking off America's 250th birthday party with a big bash of our own. It's going to be Friday, September 5th. In Midtown Manhattan at Cipriani's 42nd Street. If you want to be there, it's as easy as going over to WABCRadioFoundation.org to buy some tickets. The NYPD looking for a group of people who robbed a man of a $30,000 Cartier watch in Hudson Yards. This took place on Saturday, but we're actually hearing from this 46-year-old man who says he was walking along 37th Street when he was approached by these armed muggers. They showed him they had a gun. They then rifled through its pockets, and then they took off that pricey $30 Cartier Santos wristwatch.
He said, give me your watch or I'm going to shoot you. I told him, you're not getting my watch. He said, shoot me. Cab came down the block. I stopped the cab. I got in the car. I said, drive. He didn't move. They had me both pinned down with my arms. Went in my pocket, took my money, credit cards, debit cards, driver's license, all that good stuff. And then he snapped my Cartier watch off my wrist.
Yeah, that was him talking to Eyewitness News. He wasn't injured, so he says that was good. There is some really clear pictures of these muggers, and you can go check them out at WABCRadio.com. For the first time yesterday, the Central Park Conservancy, which runs Central Park, says they will support a bill that would ban horses and carriages for the park, saying that the practice no longer fits the realities of the park today. David Sautensall is the vice president of relations for the Central Park Conservancy, and here's what he had to say. This has never happened before, where they said, essentially, let's get rid of the horses and carriages.
We have to balance the needs of 42 million human visitors every year
against 68 horse carriages. We're just getting increasingly concerned about the danger that they're posed as the park gets more and more crowded.
Now, this has not a lot to do with the horse that died last week, Lady, who collapsed on the street in Hell's Kitchen. He says it's more just making things safer in the park itself. So you might remember back in May, a carriage horse broke free. It galloped and two carriages collided inside the park. And while these accidents don't happen too often, they don't want to take any chances. But the people who run the horses and carriages, as you might guess, they're pushing back against them. One of them is this woman who often speaks out for horse and carriage industry is Christina Hansen, who's worked in the industry for a while. She says part of the problem is there's these new designations in Central Park where the right lanes are for bikes, but they're also for carriages. And so it's made for some close calls.
They're more interested in making the park a place for anybody with an e-bike or e-vehicle to just come and zoom around. It's total chaos. It has created a perception amongst the bicyclists that the entire park drive is theirs to use.
Yes, so the Conservancy, though, said no. It just has to do with the fact that it doesn't make sense to have these horses and carriages come through the park. Some of it, they actually say, is a manure problem. They say just keeping up with cleaning, that's become an issue.
We're well aware of the history that horses play in the role of the park, and we honor that history. But the world has changed, and the park has changed, and I think it's time for everybody to recognize that.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. So there is a bill before lawmakers called Riders Law that would eventually, named after a horse that collapsed back in 2022. It has 19 sponsors already in the city council. 542, Mayor Adams doubling down, saying there's no chance he's going to drop out of the race for mayor despite being way down in the latest poll. Now, he's been way down in a lot of polls, but this latest one, a Siena one, he's at just 7%.
You know, I'm the mayor right now. And so I'm going to do what I have to do to be reelected because of what we have done while we're in office.
This is a Siena College poll that came out yesterday. The Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, he's at top of this list at 44%. Governor Cuomo comes in second, 25%. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, at 12%. Adams down at 7%. But Mayor Adams says, look at Mamdani. When he jumped into the race, the primary race in February, he was at like 1 or 2%, and then he won the whole thing.
When Mamdani was 1% in the poll, many of you would have told him, you're 1%, get out. Should he have listened to you? If he would have listened to you, he would not have won the primary.
And Mayor Adams says the reason he's not dropping out is he's still the best candidate of everybody who's in.
We have, 5 people that are still in the race? 3 of them don't have any record at all. No record. One of them, he's running from his record. I'm the only one that has a record.
Now we'll hear more about this when the mayor himself comes to WABC Studios live at 8:45 this morning with a sit-down with Sid Rosenberg here. So it'll be the mayor and Sidney Ferris Rosenberg. That comes up at 8:45 this morning right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning. Make sure you're listening. Now we're talking about the mayor. He says he welcomes federal help to continue to lower crime in New York, but he does not want the president to send in the National Guard, which the president mentioned as he was sending National Guard troops into D.C. this week.
But we don't need anyone to come in and take over our law enforcement apparatus. We have the finest police department on the globe. People come here to be trained.
Mayor Adams points to the record low shooting, homicide numbers, and a decrease in subway crime. He says if the White House really wants to help out, they can assist with cracking down on people getting hold of automatic weapons, like that man from Las Vegas who went to 345 Park back in July, killed 4 people inside a Manhattan office building.
So there is some assistance we can get from the federal government. We should deal with stopping the access of these guns. There are more grants that I think our federal partners can get.
WABC News Time 545. Governor Hochul celebrating slightly improving poll numbers yesterday. She spoke to New York One about how she's preparing New Yorkers for federal funding cuts and additional attacks from President Trump's administration.
I'm not afraid to fight it. I'm not afraid because that's my job as a New Yorker, and there's a certain, resiliency and toughness that I think all New Yorkers have. He has and I have. So I said, I don't need to punch him on every single thing he does. If it has an effect on New York, I'm going to be loud and call it out and fight and mobilize and whatever I can to stop it.
She gave that interview while sitting in a diner yesterday. A new Siena College poll showed Hochul's favorability, job approval slightly improved, and that she has a decent lead over any of the mentioned Republicans who might be running next year. Of course, the race for governor is not till next year. She also said that if Zohran Mamdani becomes the next mayor, she will help protect him and New York City from the White House.
He becomes the next mayor, and he worked very hard to put affordability front and center, something I believe in, and focusing on the solutions. If he becomes the mayor, I will stand up and defend him against Donald Trump. You're not going to come in and walk over our elected officials. So I'll make it work.
All right, in a moment, we'll check in with a Bronx family who's desperately looking for their father. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start on the diamond in the Bronx. Aaron Judge hit his first homer in nearly 3 weeks. Giancarlo Stanton had his first 4-hit game in almost 2 years, and the Yankees routed the Minnesota Twins 9-1. Carlos Rodon allowed 1 hit in 7 innings, a leadoff single to Austin Martin, and cruised after a 31-pitch first. He became the first Yankee to complete 7 innings since the left-hander pitched 8 against the Cubs on July 11th. Stanton went 4 for 5 for his first 4-hit game since August 24th of 2023 against Washington. He doubled in his first at-bat, homered in the 5th, and singled in his final 2 at-bats before getting lifted for a pinch runner following a 2-run single. Judge homered for the first time since July 23rd when he hit a drive off Minnesota rookie starter Travis Adams. Anthony Volpe hit a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the second as the Yankees beat the Twins for the 9th straight time. Last night was the second time this season that Stanton and Judge connected in the same game, and 54th time overall, including the playoffs. The Yankees won their third series since the All-Star break and won the first 2 games of a series for the first time since sweeping Seattle July 8th to the 10th. Up next for the Yanks, now a game and a half back of the Red Sox for second place in the division, then a game up on Cleveland for the third and final AL wildcard spot. Cam Schlittler will get the start in tonight's finale of this 3-game series against Minnesota, with New York vying for a series sweep. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. tonight from Yankee Stadium. In Queens, Pete Alonso broke the Mets franchise home run record, going deep twice and knocking in 3 runs as New York beat the Atlanta Braves 13-5. And Alonso's first homer, a 2-run shot off Spencer Strider in the 3rd inning, was his 253rd. He moved past Darryl Strawberry, who had held the team mark since 1988. Following the homer, the Mets displayed a graphic on the scoreboard with the number 253, alongside pictures of Alonso and polar bears in honor of the Slugger's nickname. He homered again off Austin Cox in the 6th for his franchise record 25th career 2-homer game, 3 more than Strawberry. Brandon Nimmo hit a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the 4th for the Mets, who snapped a 7-game skid with just their second win in 13 games. Francisco Alvarez also homered twice, and Brett Beatty also went deep as New York moved within 5 games of NL East leading Philadelphia. The Mets hit all 6 of their homers with 2 outs, tying the mark for a single game in the expansion era. Gregory Soto got 4 outs in relief for the win, and Justin Hagenman worked 4 hitless innings for his first save. Up next for the Mets, now 2 games up on Cincy for the 3rd and final NL wildcard spot. David Peterson will get the start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against Atlanta. First pitch is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. from Citi Field. That is your sports Noam, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
5:50 NFL. Looking at beefing up security after that gunman killed 4 people last month inside 345 Park Avenue.
Cops say it appears the shooter, who died by suicide, was targeting the NFL. According to ESPN, the NFL has sent a memo to team owners with several recommended changes, including armed officers at every team and league facility when players and staff are present. The league also wants weapons screening for people entering all facilities. The league also requesting updated threat assessments at every team and league facility. And the NFL expected to review the recommendations during an August 26th meeting. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Up to the Bronx, where a family is just desperately looking for their 63-year-old father, who apparently got lost while trying to take the 6 train home late on Saturday. The family of 63-year-old David Thompson says he was on his way back home when he told them he was not sure where he was and he needed his help. So his wife sent him a car, but they weren't able to find him. They've talked to him one time since, but have not heard from him. His phone calls now just going straight to voicemail. They put messages everywhere, and they got a message back on TikTok that someone saw him near the Whole Foods in Harlem. So they raced over there on Monday.
We have the time, we have the energy. We're just trying to keep our hope up. It's worth. We're dividing and conquering, so there's no place we're not willing to go.
Family members say he had been suffering from memory and balance issues lately, had an appointment actually scheduled with a neurologist to find out what was going on. They believe he may have become disoriented, so right now they're trying to get into his mind to try to figure out where he might go, but so far no sign of it.
The phone has stopped ringing. It's just going to voicemail, so we're really concerned. We're hoping that he's looking for solid ground, and he's looking for the things that makes him happy. He's looking for the things that he remembers, trying to be hopeful. We're a family of faith, and we're just asking for help and that encouragement to keep going because he's worth it. It's hard, but he's worth it.
Family says flyers, which include the phone number of another one of the sisters, is not just for people like us to see, but maybe for Thompson to see, so it jogs his memory. But unfortunately, sadly, no sign of him. 5:52, riders are going to have to wait if they call a Revel in New York City because the company's cars are exiting the Big Apple now.
Revel, with its light blue electric cars, competed with Uber and Lyft, but they're a thing of the past in New York City. According to the co-founder and CEO, the future of the company is to focus on building the fast charging infrastructure our biggest cities need to keep going electric. The company has 5 charging stations in New York City and 1 in San Francisco, and plans to have 2,000 charging stalls in major cities, including New York, L.A., and San Francisco by 2030. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Out to Long Island at 5:53, the death of an Irish woman at a ritzy Montauk Yacht Club now being investigated as a possible drug overdose. That's according to the New York Post anyway. Martha Oslatera was found unconscious in early August on a Grateful Dead-themed boat named Ripple that was moored at the Montauk Yacht Club. Official autopsy results on the 33-year-old fashion designer who worked in Manhattan but spent summers in the Hamptons promoting her East by East swimwear are still pending. So there's no official word, but the Post saying that it's a drug overdose. While we're out there, Long Island mother under arrest accused of attacking a middle school student who was arguing with her daughter.
Police say a 14-year-old girl was walking out of Brentwood High School around 11 a.m. Tuesday when she and a 15-year-old girl got into an argument. Police say the 15-year-old's mother, Toni Monroe, then attacked the younger girl, hitting her repeatedly with a metal water bottle. A security guard broke them up. Monroe was arrested in the parking lot. She's charged with assault and endangering. The girl was treated at a hospital and should be okay. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
The LIRR boasting a booming customer satisfaction rating, with its president releasing the latest numbers from the new Grand Central Terminal. Rob Free says on-time train performance is up too, and maybe that's why customers are so damn happy.
We're operating at 96.5% on-time performance. And with our latest customer satisfaction survey that came out, we received an 81% customer satisfaction rating. That's up 11 points from just 1 year ago.
Yeah, all right, that number may tank just a little bit as now fares may go up in 2026. New York State Fair getting ready to get buttered up.
Some 800 pounds of butter have been delivered for the annual American Dairy Association Northeast Butter Sculpture. It's one of the most popular booths at the fair, which takes place in Syracuse from August 20th through September 1st. Sculptors Jim Victor and Marie Pelton start sculpting the yellow huge chunk into a piece of art that recognizes the work of dairy farmers and celebrates the fair's festivities. When the fair closes, the butter will be converted into renewable energy. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
And we'll end with Billy Joel, who's going to close his 20th Century Cycles motorcycle shop, this popular motorcycle shop on Long Island. For the past 15 years, the Oyster Bay shop has showcased the singer's private collection of expensive and rare motorcycles, which he spent decades gathering. Shortly after his grand opening, he shared a video about why he decided to set up this motorcycle shop.
People don't get to see all these kinds of bikes all together in one place. She grew up not far from here,
and I'd like to get a little interest going into the town.
But he's really exiting New York in a big way. The closure comes as Billy Joel, who's 76, is in the middle of selling his Oyster Bay estate and relocating to Florida after being diagnosed with a brain condition a couple weeks back. People who stop by this motorcycle shop or just liked having it in the neighborhood say they'll be sad to see it go.
People don't get to see all these kinds of bikes all together in one place.
Billy Joel was in the motorcycle shop, and he was just really, he was such a sweet person to talk to.
Yeah, so the shop will remain open on weekends only through the end of August as the motorcycles and motorcycle parts are all sold off. There's no word yet when the store will be closing its doors for good or what will end up replacing it.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?